one play at a third time. So let's not focus on the great game. Let's focus on the great play. Let's play with passion, let's play with love, let's play with responsibility, let's play with respect for one another. How you feel? How you feel? Morning. I don't want you to focus on, because if I ask you right now, do you want to have a great game? All y'all will say yes, right? I want you to focus on, I want to have a great play. I want to have a great play. Then the next play, I want to have.
We are back with another episode of Inside the Locker Room. And Michael, we had a good week of basketball, HBCU hoops. Really, I just want to jump straight in the game. Actually, no, I do want to start this podcast. Me and Michael will be in attendance on Saturday at the Grambling Grambling versus Southern women's and men's game. We are both very excited about that. Right now, me and Michael are still in playing, but we plan to give you a pregame show, a halftime show, and a post-game show. And in between, we also give like some live game updates. It should be a big event. And also, maybe if this one works, maybe you see me and Michael at a couple more Grambling games along as the season goes on. But what I do want to start off this podcast with, Dozier and Ruffin just had a shootout. Dozier had 31, Ruffin had 39, but Alabama A&M comes in with the win, 100 to 91. Honestly, this is one I didn't expect. But I will tell you this: what did we say last week when we started? When we said it is too early to like tell which team is really the best in conference play right now.
Correct.
And we saw Alcorn get their first win this weekend. We saw Grambling go 0-2, which we'll talk about all this in a bit. We saw Grambling go 0-2 to Bethune-Cookman and Florida A&M. We saw Jackson State pull off and beat Alabama A&M, and now Alabama A&M has 2 losses in conference play on the season. But Michael, what are your thoughts about the JSU Alabama A&M game? Because it was a good one.
Yeah, it was a very intense game. First of all, at the Alabama A&M arena at Huntsville, Alabama. Dudes, this game here just was one. I did not expect the score to go over 90 plus points. I did not expect that. This is my first time seeing that, as far as I can remember. First of all, second of all, Contavious Dozier and Deshaun Ruffin both just went at it. I mean, it's point guard versus point guard at this point, right? I mean, if you just look at it, I mean, Deshaun Ruffin had 39 points. Contavious Dozier had 31 points. These guys were just the top tier scorers on both sides of the ball. And it was just an intense rivalry, because what people don't understand is that the SWAC in general, this conference is very competitive this year. Let me go ahead and just say that now. This conference is very competitive. And this Jackson State and Alabama A&M game just showed you that. And, Alabama A&M, they kept the lead under control. They beat Jackson State 100 to 91. Dudes, when was the last time we seen a game go like this to where it go to 100 points? Normally you see that, either out of conference or, in NBA game. But help me remember, but I don't remember ever seeing a game between Jackson State and Alabama A&M or any conference team in that matter go to over 90 plus points, even 100. It was just a very intense game. But before I go any further with this, dudes, let me get your thoughts. What did you think about how this game was? Because I was outgassed when I saw the score, bro. First of all,
Jackson State went into halftime up 40 to 36, but Alabama 64 in the second half. That's what won them the game. And I'm not necessarily saying in part that Jackson State played bad, because they didn't. They shot 44% from the field, 28 for 63. Alabama A&M 52% from the field. But I feel like, honestly, just what got them in the end is just that the second half, Alabama came out the gates ready to play. They out-rebounded them 43 to 30. Their largest lead was 17 to 7. And like we said, Contavious Dozier just had one of his best games of the season. Now, am I trying to take away from what Jackson State did? Because, no, Jackson State actually, they shocked me. They really did shock me. It's one thing to go from Jackson State being the best football team in the SWAC, or, top 2 team in the SWAC, whoever y'all have y'all's opinions. but then you watch them in basketball season, and they're not doing relatively hot. And then an Alabama team, this is a good Alabama team, despite what the record says. You bring your guys from Grambling. You got amazing head coach over there, Dante Jackson, and the fact that Jackson State was almost able to do the unthinkable, but almost able to pull off this win. That goes to show you a lot. And I'm not saying this is upset because I'm not calling no upsets into mid-season of conference play. Because right now, like I said, I don't know which team is the best team in the SWAC. We'll talk about this later. Anyways, Ruffin, he put 39 points. He was one shot away from 40.
Yeah.
Next time they're going to play JSU's home court. JSU has already came close to beating Alabama A&M. So next time JSU should know how to plan properly against Alabama A&M and contain Contavious Dozier. And also Contavious Dozier, if you're watching this, shout out to you for your 31-point game. And Coach Dante Jackson, shout out to what you're doing over there at Alabama A&M. You're turning a program around, and a sport, not even just a program, you're turning your athletic program around. An athletic program who in recent years has not gotten, as much love as other HBCUs, and what he's doing over there for Alabama A&M is giving them recognition, and that's important. Right. But honestly, I think, like I said, I'm not calling this an upset, but it was a good game on both sides of the ball from both teams. But like I said, ultimately, what won them the game is that, hey, Alabama A&M just came out the gates in the second half. I mentioned they put up 60 points. So
yeah. And I'm gonna say this, you kind of you gotta give a shout out to both point guards first of all, because both point guards averaged over 30 points in this game. Contavious Dozier had 31, Deshaun Ruffin had 39. If my stats are correct from what I wrote down on here. But Deuce, I'm just gonna give you game leaders, key stats, team performance, and I'm just gonna give you some positives and negatives, and that's just because this game here had a lot of good things on both sides of the ball. Point guards from head coaches, like this game here this just shows you that this game here, let's make no mistake, this game is a rivalry. Okay? Every single SWAC team, as far as men basketball, SWAC, football, basketball,
any sport.
Everyone is a rival. Everyone is a rival. It doesn't matter, how low or anything.
Let's make that point. Yeah, we got our rivals like Grambling, Southern, Jackson State, Alcorn. But at the root of it, every team in the SWAC wants to beat each other. I don't call you. We don't see UAPB as our rivals, but we play them so much, and we don't play them on our homecoming so much. I see them as our long-time rivals. Yep. So I'm just saying, it doesn't have to physically say, "Oh, it's a rivalry," but the way these SWAC teams play against each other, you should see it. They treat them like a rivalry. Aside from your two Florida teams, because they just joined the SWAC as of 2020, but the other teams, these teams been at it since the 80s, 70s, like
before our time, before our parents' time. That just tells you, dudes, that the history in the SWAC, the history in the MEAC conference, the history in the OVC conference, the history in the CIAA conference, the history is just there. Every team is a rival. Now, I can't technically say for OVC conference because I'm gonna admit I don't know much about those teams. The only teams I know about is the MEAC and the SWAC. And for what I know about those two conferences is that before our time, I'm gonna tell you, I was born in 2001. But when I go back and do the research, dude, it's been a rivalry way before we was even born, man. This was around the time our parents was attending Grambling or Southern or whatever. It just shows you, dude, that the rivalry never dies. And in the Jackson State and Alabama A&M game, it just shows you that the rivalries never die. But dudes, I'm just going to basically tell you this: the Bulldogs had used a strong second half to secure the win after trailing 40-36 at halftime. Alabama A&M had 6 players to score double figures. Like I said, Alabama A&M, Contavious Dozier, 31 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. PJ Eason, 12 points. Deshaun Ruffin, 39 points, 10 assists. Tamarion Hoover, 15 points for Jackson State. Dorian McMillan, 14 points for Jackson State. Kendall Turner, 12 points for Jackson State. Dudes, almost every player score over 10 points. But the only two players that I got that scored more than that was Deshaun Ruffin for Jackson State, who scored 39, and Catavius Dozier, who scored 31. Dudes, they scored majority of the points for this team. You had other scores. You had other scores. But when it comes down to Deshaun Ruffin and Catavius Dozier, those guys were just going in. It was like a high school game, in my opinion, dudes. Just from looking at the highlights on Instagram and Facebook, I'm just like, man, these guys are going at it. And dudes, you know about Catavius Dozier because he was like that at Grambling. It was just, it's no changing him. It's nothing changed about him. He's still the same Catavius Dozier that we know when he was playing at Grambling. And that just shows you that head coach.
He looks better in my opinion. He looks better in my opinion.
He looks better. He looks way better. He looks more skilled. He's more quicker now, and not only that, he know how to pass the ball around. But here's another thing: team performance. Alabama A&M shot 56.7% from the field in the second half, Deuce. While Jackson State was led by Deshaun Ruffin, who scored, Deuce, this is his career high of 39 points. This is his career high of 39 points, dude. I want people to know this right now that you cannot sleep on Jackson State because guys like Deshaun Ruffin and all these other guys who scored like 15, 14, 12 points, Jackson State is one of the most competitive teams in the SWAC right now. So you have to understand that this game here just shows you that the competitive level was there. Also, I'm gonna say this too: the crowd was there, dude, and they were playing Alabama A&M, but there was some Jackson State folks there too.
Well, we know them Jackson State fans travel. If they can take their butts to Las Vegas, they're gonna take them to Alabama
without a doubt. And that just
I shout out Jackson State fans. I shout out Jackson State alumni for that because they support their team and they pack out the vet. They do that better than any HBCU team.
I'm gonna give a shout out to the attendance because I think they had over 15,000 people.
See, that's what we need. That's what we need to start seeing.
That's what we need more.
That's what we need more. I hate about basketball season. And look, even with the women's need to get your butts in the seat and start supporting your team, support your school. And one thing I will say one thing that hurts HBCUs compared to your PWIs is I just feel like the attendance could be better. The attendance honestly be better. And it takes efforts to even Grambling students. All y'all that y'all know Southern is about to come to Grambling on Saturday and play Gram. If you don't get out your room and go watch this game and pack out the AC.
Yep. And I would not be surprised if Southern fans came to Frederick C. Hollis. I would not be surprised.
Southern last year brought a whole team bus to Grambling. So my point is, attendance is it was look, SWAC in general and HBCU it could have been better. This year we just seen with this Alabama A&M and Jackson State game, it's going in the right direction. One thing I will say about conference play, so far for all the conference games I've seen, people are in the stands. For Grambling, Grambling, I want to see more people in the stands, especially for the women's. We got it the same way we support our men's team. We have to support our women's team. We have to support our women's team.
Agreed. And I'm gonna say this, dudes. Here's the thing. Majority of the time, you only see a large amount of students come to men's basketball games compared to women. Now, unless the women's basketball team is doing very well, like Southern and Jackson State was at the time before both of their head coaches went to bigger schools. What you have to understand is that regardless of it being an HBCU, every single conference game is a rival. But what I'm trying to understand is, and what I must suggest is that there's no way that your games cost a whole lot much, but there's really no excuse because, like I said, every game is a conference. Every game is a rival. And games like Grambling and Southern, there needs to be a lot of people at the Grambling game. Like Alabama A&M and Jackson State, or a lot of people at that game. That's what I'm saying, dudes. These basketball teams, women's and men's, really women's in general, because from what I've seen, dudes, people come to more men's basketball games than women's basketball games. Not every time, but majority of the time. And I know because I've seen it, and that's just the truth. Now I know a lot of people are like, that's not technically so. It might not be so at your HBCU, but for what I've seen at games like Grambling and Southern and Jackson State, Alabama A&M, and besides last game between Jackson State and Alabama A&M, but other games it's not really been that much. Bethune-Cookman, I can put them in there. It majority of the teams in the SWAC have not had a huge capacity of fans, but games like Jackson State and Alabama A&M, dudes, they were there, and they showed that they were there. But here's another thing that I want to add right quick, dudes. Jackson State and Alabama A&M scoring percentages. Jackson State had 44.4% from field goal range compared to Alabama A&M's 51.8% from range. 3-point percentage. Jackson State 31.4% compared to Alabama A&M's 32.0%. Now, free throw. This was more closer than the field goal and the 3-point percentage. Jackson State had 77.4% and compared to Alabama A&M's 79.1% from free throw range. Those the game was very competitive, and the stats. Not only does the stats prove it, but the game proved it. Like if you just look at the highlights speak for itself. But there were a lot of positives and negatives in this game. But before I even get to that, Deuce, was there anything that you want to add before I go down this list here? Because I don't have too much, but I think that people might want to hear, for the people that don't know, about how this game went. Was there anything that you want to add before I go on, man?
Honestly, I'm just gonna say like this. Like I said, both teams played good style of ball. Off the starters, the bench, they all played good. But I just feel like the one negative I have is just that Jackson State could have came out the gate and used more of their players. Because if you look at it, Alabama A&M, yes, Contavious Dozier did have lead the scoring, but compare that to Jackson State, Alabama A&M was getting more of their depth players involved in the game, which
Right.
was allowing them to have better rotations. And I'm not saying Jackson State had bad rotations, but I'm just saying Alabama A&M used their guys more than Jackson State did, and they could rely on more of their guys compared to Jackson State. As to where Jackson State, your main person getting the ball out is Ruffin. As to where, yes, you got Contavious Dozier, who gives you 31 points, but you still got all these people, all these players that had over 10 points on the starters and on the bench too. That's just my only thing. I still think Jackson State played a good game despite the loss. But if I had to give a negative and a criticism, it would be that Alabama A&M just came out the gates and they used more of their players compared to Jackson.
I'm agreed on that. The positives in this game was, and I wrote this down. The positive in this game was that one, Alabama A&M secured a home victory over Jackson State Tigers through strong interior play and efficient shooting. Well, without a doubt, I know you can agree with me on that, especially on the strong interior play and efficient shooting. Really, both teams did well in the shooting department, without a doubt. While Jackson State relied heavily on guard Deshaun Ruffin's individual scoring effort. If it wasn't really for Deshaun Ruffin's individual scoring effort, dude, him scoring a career high 39 points, the game probably would have been a whole lot different. Even though this game was very competitive, but as I say all the time, every team has a weakness. Now, Alabama and them had their weaknesses. Jackson State had their weaknesses, but I think when it came down to the wire, Alabama A&M started to progress and find that momentum, as a lot of commentators say. They found that momentum and they kept going. Jackson State found their momentum and kept going, but it was a little late to come back from that. So that's why they lost that game to Alabama A&M. But I would not be surprised to see this game again, because if I remember correctly, dudes, they play again. They play each other again, but this time it's going to be at Jackson State. So be on the skates for that. But let me get to the positives right here. First of all, let me start Alabama A&M positives. Efficient shooting, second half scoring. Alabama A&M shot an impressive, like I said before, 56.7% from the field in the second half, which fueled their comeback victory. Number two, dominant rebounding. The Bulldogs held a significant 43-30 rebounding advantage over the Tigers, controlling the boards. Number three, balanced scoring attack. Six A&M players. Those six players scored in double figures, making them difficult to defeat as a team. But Contagious Dozier led the way with 31 points. Number four, last thing, effective free throw shooting. Okay, Alabama A&M converted on a high percentage of their free throws, making 34 of 43 attempts on the night. Let me say that again. Making 34 of 43 attempts of the night, dudes. So their free throws also played a factor in having to win this game because they shot so well. I don't know if people, for some people that don't know, free throws, they matter, especially in games like Jackson State. Because let's say Alabama A&M didn't shoot so well at the free throw line. It would probably flip the score a little bit. Let's say Jackson State beat Alabama A&M 100-91. Why? Because of the fact they shot better and they shot better free throws in it. But like I said before, the free throw shooting wise was neck and neck. Alabama A&M, yes, had 79.1. Jackson State had 77.4. So you can't really say that free throws play a factor in Jackson State losing because it wasn't. But let me get to the negatives for Alabama A&M. First half deficit. Like me and Dozier said before, the Bulldogs trailed by 4 points at halftime, needing a strong second half push to win, which they found that, Deuce, like you just said, in the second half. 3-point shooting, which was also a negative. Alabama A&M's 3-point shooting was average, connecting only 32% of their attempts. It's not bad, but it could have been better. But sometimes you don't technically always have to depend on 3 points to win a game. Alabama A&M, Deuce, they scored better in the field goal range than the 3-point range. Sometimes sometimes it takes both. Sometimes it takes one or two of the things. What helped Alabama A&M win this game was the fact that they shot 51.8% in field goal range compared to their 3-point percentage, which was only 32%. Like I said, not bad, but it could have been better. Now, Jackson State, here are their positives. Ruffin's stellar performance, without a doubt. Like we said before, Deshaun Ruffin was outstanding, recording a career high of 39 points and 10 assists, showcasing elite individual talent. Dudes, this guy scored 39 points. I cannot think of a point or a time in my head to where a player from SWAC or MEAC in general, or any HBCU player in general, to score almost 40 points in one game. Please, somebody tell me because I'll wait. I'll wait, seriously. Because I really can't even think in my head the last player to score almost 40 points in one game. Or even, well, no, I'll take that back because there have been a couple of players that have scored 30. Not often, but at some points. But I'm talking about as far as 40 points. I don't care what nobody say. Deshaun Ruffin proved himself in this game that I'm an elite shooter on this team. And Jackson State have found their score.
And I'm gonna be and he needs to be seen as a focal point on that offense going forward in the season.
Michael, going forward.
You just said you haven't seen that yourself. You haven't seen that yourself. And honestly, if I have a good game like this, my thing is I'm gonna keep giving the ball to Ruffin. I'm gonna keep giving it to him. Just same way Alabama, in the same term that Grambling gets the ball to Antonio Munoz. You know when you know your playmakers, you got to give them the ball. That's how you win games. But at the same time, Jackson State has to, not saying they didn't, they just have to involve their bench and their players a little bit more. But hey, you can always say, look, Ruffin just had a good game. And he didn't, maybe other players didn't. I don't know. My thing is, all I'm gonna say is my only negative, and that's even if you want to call it negative, because this is nitpicking at its finest. It's just that Alabama A&M just use their team more than Jackson State.
Agreed. And I'm gonna say this, dude. Another positive. for Jackson State. Strong first half. Make no mistake. Jackson State took control of the first half. Dude. Jackson State took a 40-36 lead into halftime, demonstrating it is the ability to start strong on the road. Dude, in the SWAC play, I don't care if you're playing at home. Jackson State proved that even though you're playing at home, this is still a rivalry. So your location does not matter. Dudes, I say this all the time. It does not matter where you play. But when it comes down to conference play, it's only about the teams and about the location. I can care less who got home field advantage. Matter of fact, I'm going to say it's not. Even though Graham got home field advantage, that don't mean the fact that Southern can't come in there and beat them. Because Grambling men, we're going to get that in a second, but Grambling men have struggled in the past 2 weeks, dude. They've gone 0-2. Southern is going to come in. This is going to be a rematch of the Bayou Classic. I'm going to say that now, too. It's going to be a rematch of the Bayou Classic. And either the women win or the men win. It doesn't matter. Hopefully, both teams win. But if Southern women and men win this game, dude, at Frederick C. Hobby Assembly Center, it proves my point. Don't matter location. It's all about the team and how well both teams are. So take Frederick C. Hobby Assembly Center out the equation. Take Alabama A&M's arena out the equation. Jackson State just proved that locations do not matter. The teams matter. And Jackson State and Alabama A&M, make no mistake, these were one of the hottest teams in the SWAC right now. Like I said, the SWAC is very competitive. If you were to pull up the conference right now, everyone is almost neck and neck starting the conference right now in the first 4 games. So you can't really say who the hottest team is in the SWAC right now because it's too competitive to predict. But here's another thing. High free throw percentage in the second half, dude. The Tigers were nearly perfect from the line in the second half, making 16 of 17 of free throws. Dudes, like I said, the free throws play a factor into this game on both sides. So you can't really say that Jackson State lost this game because they shot poorly at the free throw line. Because they did. It was neck and neck all the way. They shot 16 or 17, which is darn good to me. But here's some negatives. Let me go on narrow this down real quick because I don't want to take forever with this. Second half defensive breakdown. Jackson State struggled defensively in the second half, allowing Alabama A&M to shoot over 56% from the field and erase their halftime lead. Number 2, rebound disadvantage. Being out rebound significantly, 43-30, limited Jackson State's opportunities for second chance points and defensive stops. That's another thing that you have. Let me stop right there real quick. That's another thing that you have to understand. When you're playing a competitive game, you have to get your rebounds. You can't allow second chance points. And in this game, it happened. That's what happened in this game. It was a lot of second chance points, and it wasn't enough defensive rebounds. When you don't have those two going the right way, especially defensive rebounds, you are bound to lose this game without the benefit of the doubt. Sometimes it doesn't matter. I say that because sometimes in games you can have a bad defensive rebound game and still win. It's just determining a matter just how much depth and how much scores you got on your team that can make a benefit into winning games at crunch time. So that's what kind of killed Jackson State momentum in the second half, dude. They were out rebounded significantly, 43-30, which limited Jackson State opportunities.
Yeah, that's bad.
Here's another thing. Third thing. Lack of depth in score. Right. That's right. Exactly. While Ruffin had a phenomenal game, Jackson State's reliance on a few key scores was ultimately not enough to account for Alabama A&M's balance attack.
And Michael, the craziest part is I could just tell that what you just read. I could just tell that by just simply looking at the box score. And I'm not going to say I watched the game. So don't to the ones watching, don't try to say no. I watched the game. But I'm just saying,
so did I.
Look, you can look at the box score and you can tell what Jackson State's depth just didn't compare to Alabama and it hurt them in the end. It hurt them in the end. And I'm not gonna lie, we've been seeing that this season. Am I going to jump the gun and I'm saying right now Jackson State's a bad team at the start of conference play. No. But what I am saying is one negative that is going to hurt them, and if they want to win a championship, I'm gonna say it here right here. You have to fix your mistakes, and if you know depth, I'm not saying depth is an issue, but if you know your guys are not getting at it as involved as they should be, you practice that and you fix it and you carry on to the next season. Each week you should progressively get better and better and better, and next week them last mistakes should be gone. That's how I see it.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. But let me also add this last point. Overall field goal percentage. Like I just explained before, not too long ago, Jackson State finished the game shooting 44.4%, which is actually pretty darn good from the field compared to Alabama A&M's 51.8%, which is also very good. The scoring was neck and neck all the way from the first half to the second half. But like I just said, the realest killer in this game is Jackson State. I know a lot of Jackson State fans are not going to agree with this, but I watched the game myself. And I'm telling you this right now. The lack of depth in scoring was the point of them losing the game in the second half.
Yeah, agreed.
Ruffin scored 39 of Jackson State's points. Now, like I say, you had other scoring. Okay? I don't want to hear nobody say he wasn't the only one that was scoring. No, I'm not saying he wasn't. I'm not saying he was the only person scoring, though. But what I'm saying is majority of the guys scored between 15 and 12 points. But Deshaun Ruffin had 39. It doesn't take one guy. But like Duce just said, sometimes when you have a scorer like Deshaun Ruffin, you have to give him the ball. Because in this game, Deshaun Ruffin proved two things. He was the Stephen Curry of Jackson State's offense. And he was, if you wanted to add another player in there, he was the Westbrook of Jackson State offense. He scored 39 points. Now, I have to give a shout out to Cameron Hoover, who scored 15, Dorian McMillan, who scored 14, and Kendall Turner, who scored 12. Those guys scored too. But
Michael, I'm going to show you this right now.
Scored 39. Okay?
You see this? Hold up. One sec. I'm about to just so our just so our guests can see this. So because I want them to see the box score for themselves. Honestly,
okay.
I want them to see the box
score.
Bring
that up. Bring that up.
Right now.
Because one reason why I say bring that up is because I know a lot of fans are probably gonna be in the comments talking like we did not watch this game. But
you see this?
Yeah.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can definitely see your screen.
So this is all I'm saying. You see the box score.
Mm-hmm.
You look, Devin Reed, you play 14 minutes, you score 1 point, you go 0 for 3. Like, how are you supposed to come with that? DeJounte Thomas, 23 minutes and only 7 points.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that these players are bad. I am not saying that these players are bad. I'm really not. But you just have to do more. And I'm just like, compare this to Alabama A&M. You see Alabama A&M's bench compared to Jackson State's bench. There's 3 players on Jackson State's bench compared to Alabama A&M, who has 6. One player off the bench, Game Kinsey. 19 minutes, 12 points off the bench. That wins you games.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody on Alabama A&M's offense started. They scored over 10 points. Compare that to Jackson State. Yes, you had 3 players over 10 points, but your whole starting offense, if you want to compete with the team, like if you want to be able to compete with the team like Jackson State, there's certain things you have to be able to do. I mean, not Jackson State. If you want to be able to do with Alabama A&M, there's just certain things you have to be able to do. And Jackson State, they put up the best they could, but their weaknesses just got exposed. And Michael, we say this all the time. Every team has a weakness. We know that for a fact.
Every team has a weakness. And you can't sit here and say that, because, Deuce, if I remember correctly, the first time I said that, Deuce, Nate even said himself that was the best thing he ever heard. But that's from a reality standpoint. That's what I'm saying. Now, when I say every team has a weakness, I'm not saying that every team is terrible. That's not what I'm saying here. Because one thing that I just kept hearing is that, you know, Jack State ain't got no weaknesses. Alabama A&M ain't got no weaknesses and stuff like that. Every team has a weakness because there's no such thing as a perfect team. There is none. You can be competitive, but that don't mean you're perfect. Every team has a weakness. Okay, that's just the benefit of the doubt. And if you want to sit here and debate me on that, hey, I'm gonna let you have it. But like I said, every team has a weakness. Now that does not mean, you know, that every team has a weakness, so that means they're gonna lose this game regardless. No. What I'm saying is that every team is struggling with something. But when it comes down to clutch time situations, those weaknesses show, especially in games like Alabama, A&M, and Jackson State. That's just like games between Jackson State and Prairie View when they play in the SWAC championship. That's like games when Jackson State played Alabama State. That's what I'm saying here. Every team has a weakness, regardless. Southern and Grambling, they got their weaknesses. It doesn't matter what the team looks like coming into a matchup or after a matchup. Every team has a weakness. And like Deuce just said, he just proved my point. When a team has weaknesses, those things show. But what matters the most is how much weaknesses does a team have, and will it affect them from winning the game? Because if a team has more weaknesses than positives, gonna lose that game regardless. That's just the rule of the game. And it ain't just in HBCU, it's in every sport. From softball, soccer, from baseball, it doesn't matter. Every team has a weakness somewhere. Even in the NFL, teams have weaknesses. And even though this is just an HBCU segment, there are some teams in the playoffs right now in the NFL got a weakness. Every team has it. It's no doubt about it. But my point is this. This is not the last time we're going to see Alabama, A&M, and Jackson State play each other. But this game here was probably the most competitive I've ever seen. Especially scoring over 90 plus points in just one game. I would love to see more games like this, dude. 100 points? I would love to see games like this. Because that just shows you how competitive it is. And I give a shout out to both teams for scoring over 90 plus. That don't come easy in just 2 quarters. For 30 minutes. Or 20 minutes, if I remember correctly. 30 or 20 minutes, whatever. The point is, they scored 90 plus points. And I'm just like, you know, I'm looking at the box score again, and I'm just like, my God. This game was competitive, but there were some players who could have shot better from field goal, from 3-point, even in field goal range. But the main thing I can say is that even though Alabama won this game, they had struggles. So it's up to Jackson State and Alabama to fix those struggles. But it's more really up to Jackson State because they lost this game, but they played a competitive game. So I give both teams credit, but that being said of that.
Yeah, and look, the next game I do want to talk about now is this Grambling and Bethune-Cookman game. And look, we're on the because we are approaching our time, so I will be discussing this quick. Grambling 0-2 this weekend. They played Bethune, they played FAMU, and honestly, Bethune is not a bad team at all. So I have Grambling win, but Bethune losing to Grambling. I mean, Grambling losing Bethune. I'm not stressing too much over it. It's really the FAMU game that I'm kind of. But let me say this about my Bethune and Grambling game. In the first half, Grambling was close, but the second Bethune pulled away, Grambling was just trying to play catch up for the rest of the game. And a team like Bethune-Cookman, you can't play catch up ball with them. This is the same team that almost beat Auburn, a SEC powerhouse. You can't do that like this. So Grambling's first mistake was getting down 10 points. Because when that happened, they were not getting that lead back. They weren't inching close to that. And you've seen that throughout the second half. They tried to come back. Their players, I'm not gonna say they had a bad game, like the best game, but the bench was not there. The starters, I mean, Antonio Munoz, Roger Coffey III, and Ricky Ballard, they were the only 3 players over 10 points. Devin Franklin went 3 for 3 with 6 points, but certain things like that, you just have to do more. With teams like Bethune-Cookman, you have to be more offensively aggressive. You have to attack the paint. You have to attack the 3-point line. You have to use Coffee. You have to use Munoz.
Yeah.
Honestly, and I just feel like just the same thing with Alabama and Jackson State. Bethune-Cookman just used their team better than Grambling did. They used their bench and their depth just better than Grambling did. And in the end, what do I say this? A built team with depth will win a championship. We seen that with the Nuggets a few years ago for the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
And look, we seen that this is the second game. We kind of look. So I'm gonna say this: Grambling, by 2 negatives from this. You in the first half, you let them pull away, slow offense efficiency, and then 2, the players got to step up. The bench got to step up. I know this was in Florida. You were playing 2 Florida schools, so you went to Daytona, then you went to Tallahassee in a span of 2 days. I understand. Trust me. I understand. I'm in the band. We travel a lot too, a lot. So I understand the rest and stuff, but just I think certain things you should plan better for. And I just feel like Grambling came into this game. They had a game plan, but I don't think it was tooled enough to beat Bethune-Cookman.
Right. Because let me say this. Before Grambling played these 2 Florida schools, they came in with a 2-0 start, right? They were on a hot streak. They were finding their way. They were finding their ways to win games. They were finding their ways to get these rebounds off defensive. They were able to score. They were able to work out a productive way. They were able to do things that Patrick Curry talked about in his interviews, creating a winning team, creating a competitive team down the stretch. But teams like Bethune-Cookman and Florida A&M, they prepared for Grambling. Grambling State's men's basketball team went 0-2 on their recent road trip against both of these schools. And here's why. Due to the struggles with 1, offensive rhythm, 2, defensive lapses, and strong opponent performances, especially from beyond the arc. Let me tell you why. For the people that don't know, Grambling lost to Bethune-Cookman 74-65. Grambling struggled to find an offensive rhythm, particularly in the first half, and was out-rebounded by the Wildcats. Like I just said before, if you do not get your rebounds, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to win. You're not, especially when you don't get enough defensive rebounds and your opponent gets more offensive rebounds. That is rebounding is my biggest thing. If you don't get them rebounds, you are bound to lose. That's just a point of nature in basketball. Rebounds matter because it gives you more opportunities. But when your opponent gets more offensive rebounds than you, that shows 1, you're weak in the paint, and 2, your bigs are not physical enough to get the rebounds. And that's sad. But here's the positives here. Solid contributors. Ricky Ballard led the team with 14 points, and Roger Coffey, the third, a guy that I speak on a lot, contributed 13 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists. Second half push. Here's the last thing for positives. The Tigers made a late push, cutting the deficit to 7 points near the end of the game, showing resilience. Now, I will admit, this team and Patrick Curry, the second, they got really good resilience. They got really good depth. They're doing really well. But when you're playing teams like Bethune-Cookman and Florida A&M, one thing that you have to do is that you have to get the rebound. You have to score in order. First of all, you have to shoot better from the 3-point range. You gotta shoot better from the field goal range. You gotta shoot better from the 3-point range. You gotta shoot better from the free throw line. And if you don't shoot better in those 3 areas, you can forget about winning. But I will say this: I'm really proud of the fact that they cut the deficit down by just showing resilience. Resilience is a big thing to me. Resilience is always a big thing.
One thing Mike, one thing about Grambling is they played a better second half than Bethune-Cookman.
Agreed.
They just came out so slow against Bethune-Cookman. I'm not gonna say came out slow, but the fact that they let Bethune-Cookman get a 10-point lead over them, that hurt Grambling. It's harder to play catch up. It's hard. You just don't play stuff like this. You just can't play catch up with teams like this. We said that with Alabama A&M. You just can't play catch up with certain teams. But that you can't play catch up with.
Exactly. And you really just answered my first point and negatives. Poor first half offense. Grambling scored only 24 points in the first half and shot just 37.9% from the field, which allowed Bethune-Cookman to build a significant lead. Defensive struggles. Like I just said not too long ago, Bethune-Cookman maintained a comfortable lead for the most important. No, let me rephrase that. For the majority of the game and capitalized on Grambling's defensive lapses. Here's another thing. Last thing. Rebounding deficit. Dudes, the Tigers were out rebound 21-16 in the second half alone, highlighting a struggle on the glass. Like I just said, if you cannot protect the glass, you're not going to win this game. And before anybody go out here saying that the Tigers will only out rebound 21-16, doesn't matter.
If your team, Bethune-Cookman had in total had 43 rebounds.
Yeah.
Or Bethune-Cookman had 38. Grambling had 36. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. You
just still can't get out rebounded like that.
No, you can't.
So my thing is this. Before I jump to our next topic, I'm gonna keep saying this all podcasts. Am I counting any of these teams out right now? No. But if I were these teams, I would take these and reshape, learn from our losses and fix it next week. Grambling is a very good team with a very good head coach and Patrick McCray. Okay.
Yeah.
And Grambling has, and one thing I say that Grambling has a benefit this weekend. They just got one game this weekend, and that's only against Southern. So if I'm Graham, and right now we're 6 in the SWAC, 2-2 in conference play. Our next games are against Mississippi Valley, I'm sorry, Mississippi Valley fans. Y'all's athletics program just got to be better. That's the one thing I see Grambling beating them. But you go to a strong Arkansas Pine Bluff next Monday, or not? Let me see. Let me make sure the date is right. You go to Arkansas Pine Bluff January 26th.
You cannot play like you're playing right now against UAPB. I'm gonna say that for a fact.
UAPB comes to Grambling January 26th. If I am Grambling, I am making the note that, okay, I have a good Southern team. I get a week off. Then we come back. We play Mississippi Valley. That should be an easy one. We win at home. Then we come back. Then on Monday, we're at home. Mind you that. We put up a fight against UAPB. And UAPB is a team we'll talk about in a bit. But if I'm Graham, these next 2 weeks, compared to the other SWAC teams, Grambling only plays 3 games. The other teams play 4. Grambling has more time to work and really study film, really get to watch these teams. And the 2 teams, if I'm Grambling, you need to beat are Southern, mainly due to the rivalry, and you need to beat UAPB because Michael, UAPB did just lose their first game in conference play this year. But that will take away from the fact that this is a good program who has a lot of people, me and you included, with our eyes turned like, really? I mean, my own dad in the comments last week said UAPB wasn't even a good program, and I had to tell him, like, you got to look at UAPB this year. They're a good team.
Really, they picked up the slack. But let me also say this because Ben just asked a very good question: who is the player that people go to Grambling to see the most? And also, who is someone that can take a leap forward for the 2026 Grambling basketball season? I'm gonna tell you this, Ben. I'm gonna ask you a question. There are 2 good players, 3 good players. Well, really, Grambling has a good roster. But if there were 2 players I have to come up with right now to answer your question, is Antonio Minos, number 1. And my guy, who I just said before, who is a key contributor to this offense, and that's Coffee the third. Those 2 guys, if you can't watch anybody else, those are 2 guys you can watch. Because Every single time, every single game, besides the game between Florida A&M and Bethune-Cookman, Roger Coffey and Antonio Munoz are one of the top scorers on this team. There isn't one score, and that's one thing I will say that I like about Grambling's roster. They got depth of scoring. So there's really not just one player, but I will admit Antonio Munoz, the freshman, is a big key scorer on this team. But Roger Coffey is a good point guard who can spread the ball around because he, like I said, in this game against Bethune-Cookman, he scored 13 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. So Ben, to answer your question, those are two guys that can come up right now, are guys to go to Grambling and watch. But to sum all this up, Grambling lost Florida A&M 91-84. Why? I'm gonna tell you why. Florida A&M's impressive three-point shooting and key individual performances were too much for Grambling State to overcome in a high-scoring affair. I will go further with this, but for the sake of time, I'm not. But that is one good reason why Grambling cannot beat Florida A&M, because of their impressive three-point shooting and key individual performances were too much for Grambling to overcome in a high-scoring affair.
Agreed. But Michael, look, one thing I actually been to answer your question, who is someone that can take a leap forward for 26 Grambling basketball? We just said Antonio Munoz. He's only a freshman and he's dang near leading this team. You could say he's one of the main focal points on this team. So that's who I would expect to take the leap. Biggest going in 26. And he has the most potential, honestly. And I wouldn't be surprised if D1, I'm not D1, but Power 5 schools or G4 schools start calling this offseason due to his style of play. But Michael, yes, one thing I do want to talk about now, we were just talking about it. UAPB, they did just lose their first one to Prairie View, which Prairie View is a good basketball team, a very good basketball team. They lost the ground, but that's the thing. Teams are just beating each other, and it's just like one big cycle. This team beats this team. This team beats this team. This team beats this team. So, but UAPB, they were undefeated in conference play, and they just lost to Prairie View 73-61. But I want to talk about. I don't want to talk about this loss because I know UAPB will bounce back. I want to talk about the success that has went to UAPB's season this year. Just what has just went into that, because last year a lot of people weren't all eyes on UAPB. This year they're making noise for themselves as a top team in the SWAC.
Agreed. And I'm gonna say this, before that loss, UAPB was 2-0 in the SWAC after beating Alabama State 90-79, which was, for the people that don't know, was on January 5th of 2026. They also beat Texas Southern, but for the sake of time, I'm not going to get into that in this score. But key players that I want to list out is Quinn Williams. He leads the team in points, 17.3 points per game, rebounds 7.6 rebounds per game, assists 6.1 assists per game. Jaquan Scott, the forward, a prominent forward, averaging 17 points per game, and he averages over 7.4 rebounds per game. I can go down the list here, but like I said, for the sake of time, I'm not. But let me also say this: the season outlook. Head coach Solomon Bozer stated the 2-0 start sends a message to teams that we are for real, and an NCAA tournament team. While the overall record before the Texas Southern game and the Prairie View game, they were 5-10 dudes. But like I said, the record doesn't really matter because they played our conference team. And like I wrote down, challenging non-conference schedule. What was you about to say, dude?
I'm gonna say this. I'm glad you mentioned that non-conference because their first place in conference sitting right there at the top at 3-1. So, hey, if you're judging UAPB off their non-conference record, throw that out the window. Throw it because you know it's not fair.
And that's another thing. There's key reasons to watch UAPB men's basketball is because one, like I said, they got a strong conference start. They still do, even though they're 3-1 right now, doesn't matter. They are, if I remember correctly, dudes, they're in first place right now in the conference. But I could be wrong.
They are first place. And I
Yeah.
mean, look, UAPB, they play Florida A&M. They have a hard schedule coming up. They got Florida A&M, they got Bethune-Cookman, they got Southern, and they got Grambling.
I will say
This is where they really start to see which team is what team is this UAPB team? Is this a team that we can keep saying, even for Grambling, Southern, you can keep going as conference play keeps going. We can start to say, I'm gonna say this for UAPB. Is this the team that we can count on to, get through the SWAC championship or get to the SWAC championship? Is this a team that you can, for UAPB alums, is this a team that we can count on, that will lead us through the playoffs?
right.
And when these next 4 games is show a lot for UAPB. It's really going to show a lot. You play 2 good teams in Bethune-Cookman, Florida A&M. You play a good Grambling team, and you play a good Southern team. So
It's very competitive. And I will say this. UAPB is not a team to sleep on. And I totally agree with head coach Bozeman because first of all, he did very well in recruiting. First thing. For people that don't know, recruiting was a big factor for UAPB. And Solomon Bozeman took advantage of that. But I'm gonna give you 3 reasons why you need to watch UAPB's men's basketball. For the people that don't know nothing about this, 1, defensive pressure, and here it is, 3-point shooting. Dudes, they force opponents into more 3-point attempts, 9.3 per game, than they make themselves, and they capitalize on it with 8.2 made 3-pointers per game, highlighting their ability to create opportunities. Second thing, turnover battle advantage. The team thrives on winning the turnover battle, holding a 3-0 record in games where they force more turnovers than they commit. Now, this is according to the News Gazette. That's resources. I got resources for you. If you don't believe me, go check out News Gazette. And that's Gazette, Gazette. That's what they found out. But like I said, that could be different because, like I said, they just lost the peer review. But like I just said, last thing, the transfer portal impact. Coach Solomon Bozeman brought in talented players with better shooting ability and more size and length, addressing the weaknesses from the previous season. Like I said, this guy was on the mission in the transfer portal battle. He took advantage. He listed out everything that was a problem. Exactly. He listed out everything that was a problem, and he took advantage of it. And now this team is where they're at. Where they at? So make no mistake, Bethune-Cookman. I'm sorry, UAPB, not Bethune-Cookman. UAPB is a team to not sleep on because they are in first place right now. And the only way.
Michael, can I
Yeah, go ahead.
something real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Last year in conference play, 1, 2. Bethune-Cookman didn't win more than 4 games in conference play last year.
Yeah.
They're already 3. They already have the same amount of wins. And you just said recruiting played a huge factor. A huge factor. If I'm UAPB, the blueprint. We succeed through recruiting. And hopefully, if UAPB's men's basketball can start to do well, the athletic program can start to get more noise.
Yeah.
More people can start coming to UAPB, playing for the teams. Because what do we want to see in general? We want to see people. We want to see our people go to these HBCUs, and we want to see us compete on the stage. But I'm gonna say this: to anybody sleeping on Bethune-Cookman, I will hold your horses. Hold your horses until after these next 4 or 5 games. But Michael, I also the one last thing I do want to talk about this though, because I feel like we are pushing time. And I'll just go over this really quick because, Michael, I did tell you that we were going to start diving into the smaller HBCUs, and we're going to
Yes.
start it with our first one, Winston-Salem versus Virginia State. I'm gonna say this: when Virginia State basically won the second half. You look at the box score. Virginia State only scored 32 in the first half. Winston-Salem scored 37. But what you start to see a pattern with these teams, MEAC, SWAC, CIAA. You see,
Yeah.
second half matters. The second half matters. Winston-Salem came out. I mean, Virginia State came out in the second half and outscored Winston-Salem 45-34. So my point is, it's two halves of the story. I mean, two halves of the game. And for any team in general, you have to close out the second half. Now, for Virginia State, you continue to Virginia State, you move to 10-8 on your 3-3 in CIA play. That's actually really good. That's really good for where this program was at last year. And I'm trying to pull up the standings really quick if it will load, but I'm not 100% sure where they're at in the standings right now. But I mean, I expect to see them pretty high in the at least top 4, top 5. But look, I'm just gonna read these team summaries really quick for Virginia State. First half, you went 13 for 35, but you fix that in the second half and you go 14 for 24, 5 for 8 for 3-point. So Virginia State started slow, and they came back ready to go, just like Alabama A&M, hot out the gates. And yes, I'm looking at right now. Virginia State is currently third place in the CIA. So they're behind Virginia Union and Bluefield State, and hopefully eventually we'll cover those teams in the later weeks. But for Virginia State, we've been saying the same thing. You just gotta, how you start the game is how you need to finish the game. So they start the game slow, and they allow Winston-Salem to jump up, and this was a very good game. Next game, Virginia State needs to come out the gates hot, and you use your players, use your team, use the depth, get the ball to your starters, Jared Clausen, Tim. I don't know how to pronounce that last name. I'm sorry, William Hopkins and Jacob Cooper.
Yes,
I can go on and on with just players on this team. I can go on and on, and I got it. And this on me, I got to look into it a little bit more. But Virginia State has players on the team that can win them these games. And honestly, this is a team that can compete for the CIA championship title.
Yes.
Go ahead. You got anything to add to that, Mike? You got anything to add to that?
No, I was going to let you finish. Go ahead.
Yeah, but look, Winston-Salem, you just got to use your guys more in the first half. I'm not going to say Virginia State, use your guys more in the first half. Really, what I will do next game, so I can cover it, I will actually cover the Virginia State next game, so we can see, because this is a team that their program is pretty good, and the CIA teams, they just need they need more love, like our SWAC and MEAC teams. But Mike, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, dude, I'm gonna go ahead and narrow it down quickly as I can. Virginia State Trojans won this game 77-71. The reason why they beat Winston-Salem, for people that don't know, this game was on Tuesday, January 13th, 2026. The Trojans used a dominant second half shooting performance to overcome a 5-point halftime deficit. The positives for Virginia State, elite second half shooting. Virginia State shot 58.3% from the field and a remarkable 62.5, 5 of 8 from the 3-point range in the second half to seize control. Dudes, like I said, if you don't come out in the first half, you better come out better in the second half. Because what we know about this game, that Virginia State took control of the second half. Okay? They shot better from field goal and 3-point range. Dude, I ain't gonna say a lot to you, but 62.5% from 3-point range and only shooting 5 of 8, that's impressive. And not only that, but you shut out 58.3. And like I just said with the Alabama Union State game, you have to score on all 3 phases. You have to. Field goal, 3-point, free throw. That's just the determinant of basketball at any level, from high school to college to pro. You got to score on all 3 of those phases. And Virginia State Trojans did that. They shot well from field goal and 3-point range. Now, here's another thing. bench contribution. I wrote this down. The Trojans bench provided a significant spark, contributing 35 points to the overall scoring output. Number 3, defensive pressure. Deuce, the defense forced 20 turnovers. I'm going to say it again, 20 turnovers, which directly led to 18 points for the Trojans. Last thing, sharing the ball. Deuce, I can't sum this up enough, but you have to spread the ball around. And that's what Virginia State did. Sharing the ball. Deuce, Virginia State tallied 18 total assists, indicating a high level of ball movement and team-oriented play. Deuce, I'm going to say it again. 18 total points, team-wise, indicating high level ball movement and team-oriented play. They moved the ball around, which caused them to score and have everyone involved, including the bench. But for Winston-Salem, here are they positives. For the sake of time, I'm not really going to take too much time. I'm not going to go into the negatives. But for Winston-Salem, you know they lost this game 71-77. The positives for them was perfect free throw performance. The Rams were a perfect 20 of 20 from the free throw line, keeping themselves competitive until the final minutes. It's kind of like with the Jack State and Alabama game. Came down to the wire, Jack State kind of fell off a little bit. Second half lead. Winston-Salem State University executed well early, taking a 37-32 lead into the locker room behind Mason Bryant scoring. Last thing, individual standout. Mason Bryant scored a season high of 22 points, providing the bulk of the Rams' offensive threat. Dude, it was kind of like the same thing with Alabama and Jackson State. Both offenses played a key factor into this game on why the score was close as what it was. And I'm gonna say this game was high scoring as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna say this because a lot of times in SWAC or MEAC play, a lot of teams score over 50 plus average points every game. That's competitive. That's in conference wise. But I will say I really like the competitiveness on both sides. Like I said, I'm not going to get into negatives for the sake of time because, like you just said, we have reached our point. But, like I said before, Virginia State won this game because they shot well and they spread the ball around. They played well at defense, forcing 20 turnovers, and a bench played effective, contributing 35 points to the overall scoring output. 35 points. That's a huge factor to me, especially from your bench. And like I say all the time, depth matters because it shouldn't take your starting lineup to score a point. Your bench has to play a factor in that as well. Because if you don't have a good bench, you don't have a good team. Because I don't care if you can have a good starting lineup and don't have a good bench. That's going to basically determine your season. You got to have depth at every position. So,
Agreed.
yes, true. But I will say this. Teams like Winston-Salem and Jackson State, those teams are still competitive to me. They just have to. Their bench just has to get more involved. But I will say this. Don't let the Jackson State fans see you say that. but for the sake of time, that's just what the determinant of this game was. Virginia State just took advantage. Yeah.
They'll be fine. The truth.
I'm on my way 32. Don't hurt nobody. I'm just saying. Truth don't hurt nobody.
Yeah. If y'all are that comment, y'all's bitch to get in check. But closing off this podcast, look, it's love to all HBCUs, and look, we're actually transitioning into this basketball stuff pretty well.
Yes.
Next week, make sure you tune in. Me and Michael will probably be discussing, or we'll probably talk about the Grambling Southern game. We'll recap that. We'll talk about some other teams, and we'll probably, what I do want to dive into next week is dive into more of the MEAC schools and like have it really MEAC focused next week. So we'll do that, and then we'll tie in some SWAC team and we'll have a longer time span. I'm aiming to have us more time so we can have more time to talk about it because there's moments that we missed today that we could have hit. But next week, we expect this podcast to be longer. And thank y'all for getting us 300. Thank y'all for getting us 300 subscribers. It's been a journey. It's been a journey. Right now we're at 301. So I told Ben on our last episode, our goal is right now is to get to 320 so we can get to 350. But overall, by March or at least February, I want to get to 500 subscribers. And I think we can do that because I see all y'all watching the video. If we're getting over 700, hey, each view, subscribe in my eyes. If you are on the video, why not subscribe? And if you watch this far, why not subscribe? That's how I see it. But
if you ain't subscribed, I'm sorry. Go ahead, man. But
I was gonna say,
okay.
Say what you got to say. Yeah, say what you got to say.
No, I was gonna say this. If you ain't subscribed by now, then what are you doing? You're basically just wasting your time. And basically, you're telling us that you're bored and you're just watching something. I'm telling you, you need to watch inside the locker room, but you also need to watch, me and Deuce as far as HBCU hoops and football. Because, like I said, like Deuce just said, if we can get to 700 views or 500 views or even 400, if we can get to that many views, then we ought to have that many subscribers. Like I said, I get it. We might not be what you're looking for, and that's fine. But your support is the step in the right direction. So first of all, I appreciate all of you for getting us to 300, without a doubt. But like I said, if you have not subscribed, then what are you doing? What are you doing? Like I said, we might not be the most. We're not the most advanced guy. We ain't no Stephen A. We ain't no Shannon Sharp. We ain't no Ryan Clark. But dang it, we know what we're talking about. Especially for me and Deuce go. But like I said, if you ain't subscribed right now, then you're wasting your time. Because I'm telling you, what we talk about on this podcast, with me, Ben, Adam, and Deuce, and with me and Deuce and this HBCU stuff, you need to dial in. Because your support and your info in the comments, that means we're doing something right. Well, it's positive and negative. So I'm gonna say this: make sure y'all tune in to the Grambling Southern game because what me and Deuce are trying to do, and not Deuce. I don't know if you have the post pulled up on here, but the post will be made.
After this. We just gotta post it, but you can't see. Look, we will be in attendance.
Yes,
we will be in attendance.
We will be there.
So,
and I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this for the people. I'm gonna say this for Grambling students and Grambling alumni who have, asked or because according to Deuce, Deuce, I don't even know if that question is still being asked around Grambling campus. I ain't stepped on Grambling campus in a good couple of months, but we will be there. But even though we're gonna be there, you need to be there. You need to be there because I just got on the phone with my dad not too long ago. I say, are you gonna be there? Because you need to be. Because my dad just told me that Southern basketball players, they just booked into the hotel that he works at. They are dialing, they are already in meetings, they're already talking about it. Deuce, they are preparing. So if they're preparing, you need to be prepared. Because I got my shirt over here right now. I can show you my shirt right now. I literally bought me a Grambling shirt because this isn't just about Grambling Southern. This is about, content. This is about getting me and Deuce more involved. Because a lot of you have been asking.
You know what I said? The vision I have for this podcast and the next 3 to 5 years, just based off these our supporters, we should be. I got big goals for this for Inside the Locker Room. Big goals. A website's coming soon. Articles are coming soon. In-person content's coming soon. In my eyes, I want Inside the Locker Room to be as big as a brand like Bleacher Report in the future. But it starts with y'all. It starts with y'all.
And then also, dude, I'm gonna add this too. I don't know, but if you have an iPhone, that little podcast app that's on iPhone. Hopefully, at some point we can get to that because that's also a big thing. Because First Tech is on there. A lot of successful people is on there. From pastors all the way from sports guys. Look, we're trying. inside the locker room, the vision is high, but is with your support, we can get there. Because there's a saying that the more hard work you put in, the more it's gonna pay off. And so far, it's paid off. We're already at 300 subscribers. To me, that's a huge accomplishment. But the main dream, the vision that I want to see inside the locker room get to is 500. And also, on Instagram, my goal is to reach 2K. Right now, I just reached 4.1K because of your support, and I appreciate y'all. But like I said, it ain't just about me, Deuce. It's all about Adam and Ben as well. Spread support to them. Spread support on inside the locker room. I post every segment that we do. I post it on Facebook. I post it on Instagram because we're all in this. We all put in the work to get to 300 subscribers. And now I want to reach 400 now. Like we're human. Deuce, you want to reach 500? I want to reach 400. Then we reach 400. I want to reach 500.
I want to have the most subscribers on YouTube. That's what I want to have because anything is possible, and I will make sure that happens. Because I didn't just stay up doing these late nights for nothing, Michael. These late nights,
really.
So, that's what I'm just saying. So, support. Look to the supporters right now. Thank y'all for interacting with us in the comments. I like y'all's insight. I really do. Sometimes it makes sense. Sometimes I just see alumni bias. But keep supporting, keep commenting because it's the feedback. And look, one thing I will say this: if y'all comment, we're going to comment back. Either me or Michael comment back. We always do. So just we engage with y'all. We want to talk to y'all. We want to get to know our fans better. But look, just closing this episode out. Look, just make sure you tune in and make sure you start showing support to these HBCU games. Go to the HBCU games, even if it's a local HBCU that's not your HBCU. Go there. Get out, just support, and that's the overall goal. What we're trying to help with HBCUs, we want HBCUs to we want bigger audience to see HBCUs, and that's just my vision for HBCUs. But I mean, look, I said we're on a close time. We're on a we're closing our time remarks, so I do have to end it here. This video will be uploaded in the next coming minutes or hours. So look, to the ones watching, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. My goal for this video is to at least get three or four subscribers, and I want at least to have 15 comments, at least 15 comments for our fans. So help us get there, and that's just basically my closing remark for the episode. Mike, you got anything else to say before we close this out?
My closing remark is this: we appreciate y'all for taking the time to watch us on live stream, and if not on live stream, even after this, we appreciate your attendance and we appreciate your comment. Like you said, I might not be able to comment to all of you, and I do apologize, but make no mistake, we are going to comment. Your comment means that we're doing something right. Whether it's positive or negative, whether it's biased or not, I don't care. The point is, your comment is basically saying that we're doing something right. Your views is literally saying that we're doing something right. But as I always say, make sure you pray for yourself, pray for one another, pray for your family, your friends, your loved ones, your neighbors, even your coworkers. Pray for all of you. Because we're all in this together, and we need to stick out for one another. We love all of you and your support, and we support you just as much as you support us. So, like I said, pray for one another, love one another, respect one another, but also pray for yourself. And my closing remark is, may your next day be your best day. But until we meet again, y'all, in the words of my pastor himself, make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe. But until then, grace and peace from Mark and Michael Sports Talk inside the locker room.
Out. Peace.